Hello YouTube and hello viewers, and welcome back to yet another episode of Working with PHP with me, Wayne. It's nice taking you for these lessons, and I'm glad people are looking at the first one. Obviously these are going to continue. There's going to be, as I say, a lot of tutorials in regards to PHP. So stay with the channel and keep up with me if you can. Again, if you get stuck or confused, you're more than welcome to put some comments down below, and I'll try and answer them as quick as I can, which is nice now. It comes to my phone, so it's nice and easy to comment back if needs be. So what we're going to be looking at today is something called variables in PHP. Again, I'm going to go do like a little PowerPoint to get you to understand what PHP is and how variables work with inside PHP. And then we're going to try and do some code examples. Okay, so let's switch over to the PowerPoint. So as you can see today, we're going to be looking at variables. And basically what a variable is it's just something that would store information that you want to put in. So for example, if you want to store your name, you can store a PHP variable with your name in. However, each one of these variables need to begin with a $sign. This is very important, and you'll see that once we start doing a little coding practice within our scripts. The next thing is that they are very case sensitive, whereas we saw in the last tutorial the echo and the print isn't case sensitive the way how we write it. However, all variables are case sensitive, so very important to realize that when you are writing these variables, that if you are using cases, you need to make sure they're exactly the same. It gives you more scope, however, if you do change the case sensitivity. For example, if you're trying to replicate the same thing, you can case sensitive something else, so you know it's a different aspect. You have two types of variables. We've got global and local. Today we're just going to look at local ones. We will start looking at global when we start talking to other different pages. But in this case, we're going to be just using local in this case, whereas, as I say, global will be in different pages that we can call. However, local variables are restricted to a function or a class. This is not entirely true. As you can see, local variables we'll be working with are on the same page that we're going to be using. So, and we're not really writing any functions as yet, but once we move into object-oriented, it will make more sense. But for now, we're just using procedural. However, there are some variables that contain certain names that we can't use. For example, there's form variables, and again we'll look at forms later on, where we use post and get. Those are static, so obviously you'd always use those for anything in regards to moving stuff around with forms. And then we've got server variables to gain information from the server, and there's many more. These are just a few that I've put in there just so you can see that there is a difference between some of them. So here's a few examples of what variables would look like. You don't need to go through all of this just yet, but we will be doing it as a sample, so don't really panic too much. For example, you can make variables and attach integers, i.e. numbers, to them. Obviously, you can put a string, for example, hello, as you can see there. And then obviously to show them out, we would then just echo out those variables. So instead of typing the words or the numbers, we will then retrieve that out. Okay. Again, we'll look at this when we move into some coding. The nice thing about using variables is that we can use rhythmic operators. This is basically just maths, where we can have minuses, multiplies, divisions, and addition and subtraction and all that sort of jazz. We can do all that. Here are just a few examples of assigning integers to letters, for example, A and B, and we can then make another variable for the total. But again, we're going to do all of this, and you're going to see this in working practice. Okay, and then the last thing that we're going to look at today is concatenation of strings. This basically means that we can attach strings together to print out some information through either echoing or printing, as you can see there. So we're going to look at that and how that works in this specific example. Okay, so without further ado, let's get ourselves started with some code. So I'm just going to jump over into my editor, and you can see I've got a blank page to start off with. So we're going to make a new one. So we're going to go File, New. And as you can see, it's a text file for now. Remember, we just go File, Save As. We can just go File Operators and Save As. And in this case, I need to make sure I get into my WAMP. So I'm going to go VM, Xampp, htdocs, YouTube. And we're just going to call this Lesson 2. And I'm going to just put .php at the end. Okay, so we know it's now a PHP file. And remember, we always have to start PHP like this. Always remember we've got to do that. And then we close that out. Please, very important, otherwise your PHP is never going to work. So first things first, let's just do a command line. We're going to say simple simple variable, so you just get to understand what a variable is. And in this case, we're just going to have dollar name, so just dollar name is equal to, and then in quotations, we're going to put my name, so Weza, and semicolon at the end. Now, if I happen to save this and open up my file, so if I just refresh that, you can see lesson 2's here, you'll notice that nothing is shown on the screen. The reason behind that is because what we have is we've just got a variable that's storing information. We haven't really decided to print it out as yet. So if we want to see this value, we can just say echo and then dollar name, which is the name of the variable. Okay, so if we save that and we go back to the browser and refresh, you'll see that it then prints out our name, because we've told that we want to retrieve that information from that variable. So let's add a little bit more. So let's change that name to f name, so first name, and we're going to do the same underneath. So we're going to say dollar s name, and we're going to say Weza tuts and semicolon at the end. And we could do the same underneath here. We can say echo dollar s name. Now there's going to be an error because we haven't changed name to f name, so always make sure you change that. And if I save and then refresh this, you'll see it comes together as Weza tuts. Now remember, if you want to have some spaces, all you had to do, in this case, remember we can't really do it now, but we had this br and close. If we try and do that like that and refresh, notice there's going to be an error because we can't really pass a line through as that in this example, but I will show you how we do that in a second. Okay, so that's very simplistic variables for that one. Now if we wanted to do some maths, so let's just say make another variable, I'm just going to call this num1 is equal to 12 semicolon, and let's just have num2, so num2 is equal to 24 and close that. Now what we can do is let's just make a line space here, so let's just echo, do that, br, and that'll give us a line break, I think, if I remember correctly. Now if we wanted to do a bit of maths, we can say echo num1 plus num2. So let's see what happens if we do this, semicolon. So if we save that and refresh, you notice you get 36 in value and also the line space. So what's actually happening is that we're saying number 1 plus number 2. If we had to just dupe this and do different arithmetic operators, so net minus, and let's put another one, divide, and then multiply, which is the star key. Let's just copy this so we can make some spaces between them. We'll just put it there, and we'll put one there, put one there, and we'll put one there, and we save. And if we had to refresh, you'll notice that it does all the different arithmetic operators, i.e. we've got the plus, then we've got, I think this is a subtract, division, and then multiply. So you can see that it's all working as how we want it to do. What we could do, which is something a little bit extra, is if you wanted to go a little bit crazy, we could just say total equals, and then we could say that. So we're saying num1 plus num2 and then close brackets. So in this case, we can just grab the total. So if we had to break out, so let's just throw a few lines underneath, nice few spaces. And if we echo out $total, semicolon, you should notice that we can also get the total value. Instead of putting a lot of arithmetic operators in, we can just store it as one value, and we can always update that total if we wanted to. Now this would be very good if we have forms, because obviously we can pass information directly to that form, and then we can edit that and we can grab people's emails, first names, second names, and all that type of information. So this is just simple math, so we can comment that out. I'm going to say simple variables using operators. Okay, So the next one we're going to do is some concatenation. So we're going to do simple variables using concat. Right, so concatenation, which was the last slide we looked at. And this is basically, we can write out strings of information by using concatenation, which is basically represented by this full stop. Okay, so that's very important. So we're going to use the math operators, and we're going to say echo. We're going to take that, and we're going to say echo. Let's just echo out. This is the addition. So this is going to be addition. Concatenate, right? Let's make a space line there. So we're going to leave an empty quote, and then concatenate again, and we're going to say $num1. Actually, we can use total. We can use total in this case. I can't be bothered writing all that out. So this is the addition, and then we leave a space, and then the total. So let's see what happens if we do this. Let's just grab some line spaces. So save and refresh. So you can see that we can put some text in saying this is the addition, 36. But how do we get the number values? Well, we can do that as well. So let's just test this. So this is the addition. So what happens if I had to do this? In here we go $num1 concatenate plus. So we're just putting the values in so you can see what's happening. Oh wait, I forgot to put the dollar. Sorry. So $num1, and then concatenate that together, and then we're going to say, quotation $num2. Just take all this out, and then concatenate the total value together, and let's see if this works. So let's save that, and let's refresh this page. And so we can see it says this is the addition 12, which is the value of the variable, and then plus, so we just put a plus sign there, num2, which is 24, and we don't have a space, so we can quite easily space that out. If we just put another concat there, space in between there, and now we should have a nice clean explanation of what's happening there. So this is the addition, 12 plus 24 will give us 36 as an answer, but we could just clean that up a little bit more. Again, we could put some quotes there, say equal to, concatenate, and then total. So if we have to refresh that, you'll see that we get the value. So that's pretty much all we need to do in regards to understand how variables work. There is a lot more to come. As I say, this is just basic for now. We will start moving into the advanced features, but hopefully this gives you a good idea of how simplistic variables do work with inside PHP, of just echoing them out, using numbers and using text base, i.e. strings. What we will be looking at next is going to be some more operators. For example, we're going to check, for example, if something equals a certain number, then give us something back in return. Again, thank you very much for joining me. My name's Waza. It's been great taking for these topics. If you like the session, hit the like button. If you really like it, subscribe. If you really like it, share this with all your friends, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you very much, and goodbye.